goddamn Donald!
Anyway, practicing for mime college. You could still hear the other thing, right? Right, like all I need is another parent. Right. I need more parents telling me to be good. That'll fix the problem. More parenting. Got all these books. Gift of the Wilds, Fortitudes, and 10 gold. I paid like 100 for my Conjure, whatever the fuck it was. This shit please sell. Another 9 gold. Wow. Yeah, Primal Mana. What I looked up online, a lot of that already exists. I didn't know, like, built-in Windows features, eye tracking and mouse movement and shit. But why don't people? Why isn't that a thing? You would just think you would be seeing people use the fucking thing, right? Kind of strange, right? I'm trying to think of ways to apply it though, right? Because just because it's like it's got that one feature, trying to come up with something that's a little more open-ended that can be applied in different ways might be more helpful than just like, you know what I mean? Like one feature is great, but you would like to have that as like a utility or like a tool to use that you could apply in different ways. You would just think there'd be like, is it just not that good or something? Like, but there's a whole bunch of other uses for it. Come to find out, right? Other than just like playing a game or using it to magnify one portion of the screen or whatever. But when I read online, there's like a whole shitload of things that can be done. I think it's like without like placing a bet on whether or not something like that would be successful because it is a little bit gimmicky. But if you give it more of a use than just one thing, right? Okay, now. but a machine learning process that consists of you using a specific browser, turning the thing on, and say you want to do a training session. Then you turn on the Xbox Connect, but for your eyeballs, and then it takes a heat map of what you click plus what you look at, and then the information or data is used to train a large an AI model to sell you more fucking useless garbage on Amazon, probably, right? Because it's like knowing where you look and stuff. I mean, that's important. You can't say that's not important information. It's like even just from like even in non-training in AI, just as far as like it's super vital information, what links and like the heat maps, people like what they click on websites and stuff, you know, or it looks like it's got chicken pox and all that shit. But what's as is important, but not as tracked, obviously, would be where you actually look, where you physically look at a page. You think like, well, if you're already going that far with it, why not make a game that also incorporates that technology, and then also medical diagnosis, you know, and like, what was the thing we saw the other day about large language models, like when they're training and stuff, they're like this, there's these two lines, but only after a few weeks does this other line start to go up in a way that they didn't expect in some way, shape, or form. It's like pattern identification. It's like all the things that we think like manually tracking everybody's eye movements. We might find that there's a direct correlation between how somebody's eyes move or whatever, you know what I mean, and like associated mental illness more than likely. Like there might be like an underlying pattern that a doctor would never understand or recognize unless you were passively observing somebody 24 hours a day. You know, like schizophrenia or bipolar disease or Alzheimer's or ADHD or Alzheimer's or dementia or Alzheimer's. There's no way to tell for sure unless someone's under 24-hour observation, right? So unless you created like an AI that can passively observe people as they browse and play computer, you get what I'm saying? And then if you run it as a locally, like it's designed to identify these things after it's trained, then you can run the AI locally, and then that circumvents any HIPAA and privacy issues and stuff, because we have to know for sure, but you get what I'm saying? Like it's not like it's being stored on a server where you're accountable for making sure it's tucked away in these little folders and pockets and shit if you're in Europe or whatever. Make sure you're compliant all around, but right? Or something like that. The idea of using it to diagnose disease can't take up any more hard drive space. It can't be any more computationally taxing than using a large language model locally, can it? How could it be? I really don't think it could. Just requires, probably, I say, oh, all it requires is, let me put on my bow tie, right? Some specialized equipment, and then the thing is at some point in time is where you want to identify these things, like you have to have people that have at least been accurately clinically diagnosed to qualify their data set for training, right? So training a model would require you to actually go out and find people that have either schizophrenia, bipolar, like clinically accurately clinically diagnosed, and then ask them to participate in a medical study. Like people are familiar with that idea, right? Where you get paid to try new medications, and they take your vitals and all that stuff, and you get paid based on whatever, you know what I mean? Well, this would be a similar process, but like medically pertinent and help, like, you know what I mean? Like you get paid a lot probably for doing it, if I had to guess. If that makes sense. But the thing is that for the data to be relevant or accurate, it's like, not only does the person have to be accurately clinically diagnosed, you know what I mean? It can't just be self-diagnosed or someone that has the symptoms. Like you have to be able to certify the data based on an actual physician's clinical diagnosis, and then it has to be like checked and checked and checked to make sure that it's accurate, not just some doctor that runs a pill mill or whatever for people with people issues, you know? We all know the type, but people just being people getting prescribed medication because that's what the doctor gets paid to do, but then if you could use that data to train an AI to identify those patterns or indicators, right? I would think, I'm only assuming that like schizophrenia would be one that you'd be able to detect with some sort of AI, but they did say already that there's a lot of breakthroughs in autism and dementia and ADHD, which ADHD a far less debilitating version of either of those things apparently, in some way, shape, or form. It's all kind of the same shit, right? But the thing is that if it's a passive system and there's just like, not to mention the features on something like that, you would think it's like every computer already has a webcam, but what you don't ever hear is, does the computer have a gaming camera? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, one of the least stressed points that there is the fucking camera on a laptop or whatever. But if you were able to like make the cameras AI certified for that kind of thing, a certain level of quality, frame rate, and accuracy, to be able to track people's eye movements and stuff, then so there's the reason why I'm harping on the issue is because it's multifaceted, right? So there's more than just a game involved with the eye tracking device, right? More than just one game, right? It's more than just a gaming thing. There's legitimate medical purpose, there's legitimate entertainment purpose, and legitimate like workplace purpose for this kind of thing, right? So recreational, professional, and medical, right? That covers like a whole, all the fucking shit people pay to do or pay to, services and stuff, right? I keep thinking like, if these like smart pens and these other things, like smart buttons that you wear on your shirt and all that stuff, like the amount of money people are pouring into that kind of thing, I'm like, I feel like they're pedaling backwards, right? It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight, right? It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight, right? You tell them, right? $65. Let's open up the window. Oh man, that's gonna bother me. The fucking blinds are all fucking sideways. Last like 10 years I've lived at this place, or less than 10, but you know what I mean. I've had about maybe 5-6 minutes of meaningful conversations with anybody, like neighbors and stuff, right? Some of them are great people, I'm sure, but a lot of these people, man, they bother the shit out of me. They truly do. But then when I looked up online, like my initial use for it was just like a magnifying glass feature. That's cool enough as it is, but that already exists. But I'm thinking like, why aren't they utilizing more of this shit? If where you click on a website's pertinent to advertising data, then all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be valuable. It just requires a specialized piece of equipment. For like 2 high definition cameras, basically, to take stereoscopic imaging of your eyes, like basically like an Xbox Connect, but for your eyeballs, right? I think that pretty well explains it. Can I get to a new layer with less people? Where'd that guy go? But the thing I was saying about pattern recognition, right? So one thing that we haven't is like, well, people on stimulants, their eyes look a certain way. That people that have various diseases, that their eyes look a certain way. But unless you're like passively observing people, like their eye movements and things like that, there might be a lot of um, things that can be figured out through AI as far as like their state of consciousness, whether or not they aren't paying attention to something, how long they retain, how long an object retains that attention, so on and so forth. That's all helpful for advertisers, but if you find out after analyzing all this stuff that there's like a way to detect disease using people's eye movements, you would think, why, it's one of those things that you won't find out until you do it, you know what I mean? It's purely speculation at this point, but there's apparently some evidence that supports it, but yeah, so I'll leave it there. I think it's a good idea if there's truth to it. And there's a few labs, they say, were researching the matter, and that there were some evidence to support that. Yeah, it does. That sort of thing does work. I expect for improved Kona Cold, Jerry. Because at some point in time, like, not to say like this for sure, but you're gonna have all this compute, all this AI is gonna be trained pretty effectively, right? And then unless you make improvements, I guess, on how it was created or trained or whatever, the next iteration, you're gonna have an excess of compute and a lack of data to train it with, right? So making the user-friendly training process, or the way for the average end user to create useful training data, you just have to make it user-friendly, and then that's like as good as electricity or gasoline. Are both these guys working together? Come on now. Kind of trying to be a dick to that guy. But then I posted a video from that guy from way back when. I remember watching the video when I was a kid. He modified the Nintendo Wii, and I thought, like, why the fuck aren't they doing that, right? Because it's a really cool effect, right? Sitting there thinking, if you can combine the two. That's the thing. That's why I've always been a big supporter of BAT, the basic attention token. it would be cool to see them implement something like that to mine the. I forget how it all works now, but I always thought that was a great idea for a token. Was basic attention token. Brave browser is pretty awesome, you know. Well, I'd love to see there to be like eventually, and hopefully it'd be cryptocurrency, a native AI token that is the one that facilitates all this kind of shit. Basically, decentralized training, decentralized. I mean, if possible, man, all of it, right? I would just really fucking, dude. It would just dust my britches. It would just dust my britches if this opportunity slips through everybody's fucking fingers, dude. Because I'm telling you, like I am telling you, God, please don't, please don't let it. Such a good idea. Not this specific thing. Just all in all, like, for fuck's sakes, man. Like if you create a user-friendly platform where the training process, like where you actually generate training data for an AI, is user-friendly, it has a mineable cryptocurrency associated with it, and you can release bounties to help train various AIs for people like away, you know, kind of for people that can't afford the regular like whatever the fucking how much compute's required or don't have the resources. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily solve the compute problem, but don't have the network available to generate the required data to train a model or whatever. I mean, it makes sense. You know what I mean? I don't know how successful something like that would be because it is kind of gimmicky and not a lot of people are cryptocurrency people. So, but I mean, like, if it weren't the primary feature though, and it were just a feature, you know what I mean? It weren't the heart and soul of the thing, but more or less just a feature. You know, but the thing is, at some point in time, like, having your own AI becomes a novelty, so... As far as, like, your own large language model and all that shit will probably be a novelty thing at some point in time. Like, right now it's super expensive, only a few people can do it, but... Shit. I do have improved counterspell now. Got both points working correctly. I don't know why he did that. Derp. Yeah, another thing to consider, right? Like, as far as like trying to get the thing up and running again, man, it's like I know the cost is a lot to expect just like one person to fucking do all this shit, but you know, anyway, but the relative cost overall, man, it is not that expensive. This is like a fucking lunch cost for some of these people, right? Seems like a no fucking brainer. Like all the hard part's done. Like quite literally, what these people, some of these people spend on like lunches and shit, is enough to keep it up and running for like 40 or 50 simultaneous users using the video chat feature. A month is not that much, you know what I mean? Relative cost. And the thing that can be done though is that if the amount of people trying to use the thing outpaces the amount of available server space, you just add a line and you rate limit the people to like 15-minute sessions if there's a line, right? And then the person, like used to when you just log into World of Warcraft, you are so and so in the queue, you know, estimated wait time 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, right? Call it a beta phase, right? And then that way you can determine what the how many interested parties are there, and then you can selectively lease or rent more servers on a case-by-case basis, depending on how many users you can estimate that you have need to service simultaneously. You get what I'm saying? But like for a month or two, you could have just 10 of the servers. I think the graphics cards for 10 of the servers is $2,500 a month, which facilitates 20 uses, right? 20 people simultaneously video chatting. $2,500 a month is, it's a lot for an individual, obviously, but if you know, for trying to develop like a real deal service or platform, you know, it's not that outlandish. You know, it's like quite literally almost nothing probably to some people, right? And that being said, you're able to capitalize on the fact that it remains kind of niche and only a few people can get to it, kind of thing. You know. Not to say it's a marketing strategy, but it is a bit of both, right? Making it cost effective and requiring minimal system resources. I mean, anytime you can reduce the overall dollar amount required to like do a beta test of something, right? Not to say it's like gambling, but if you reduce the amount of risk, and like anytime you can reduce the price by even $1, you're actually you're removing $1 worth of risk from the equation, right? So if you can get it to such a relatively low number, and all it has to do, man, like, it doesn't have to be there 24 hours a day for people to chat and all that stuff, just for people to get their toes wet and to see and to understand and see, hey, this is cool, you know, like, this might be something that I can really see evolving into something totally awesome in the future, right? What is this person? Where you at? I mean, I'm kind of over here. I don't know where you're at, guy. Sure. I don't really like getting thrown off in other people's shit, but now that guy got fucked off. Now I'm gonna fucking die. Should've just stayed out of it, Morty. Fuck, man. Almost had him, but fuck. Hit all that shit attacking me. Oh man, I fucking should have had that. If I had my PvP gear on, I would have, but now this guy's got a whole fucking army of people here. Whatever you do, don't throw your fucking hammer at me, please. This doesn't concern you, Druid. Give me all fucking throw it off here. Resisted counterspell. You fucking kidding me? Yeah, I should be farming right now. Gallivanting around the fucking plateau with this guy. Goddamn tap dance shoes on, killing people for no reason. Fuck. They saw me, Jerry. All three of them. That paladin's not going to try and throw a hammer even once. Come on now. Like, I'm used to, like, come on, man. I'm low 20%, right? That's why I tried to counterspell him. I figured he was going to. What was I saying? You know what I'm saying, right? Whatever it was that I was trying to say before. Oh, yeah, yeah. The scaling thing, right? Epic bird. There, he threw a hammer that time. Yeah, but that's a common sense approach to scaling or determining, like, it minimizes the amount of risk, assuming that, like, well, it really only requires a certain amount of dollars to keep the thing up and running for whatever, you know. And then if you can word of mouth, I guess, you know, pray for a miracle, I guess. I know there's got to be, like, ultimately those type of things require a lot more structure than just, well, we'll just, you know what I mean. It's not fucking shooting craps at the Indian casino or anything. You know, there's a thought process and structure required to make sure it's handled correctly. But strictly from a numbers perspective, though, that it does work that way, you know. But then that would give everybody the opportunity that wouldn't necessarily probably like use it as much as I do, just see the potential, you know what I mean? And go, okay, well, this thing's pretty fucking cool. All the hard parts have been done already. All the hard work's been done. I mean, anybody that knows what they're looking at should be chomping at the bit, basically, is what I'm getting at. The thing is, you don't want to overwhelm people with, like, oh, it can do this, it can do that, you know, like, but at some point in time, You would like the token to be mineable. You'd like it to be stakeable. You would like it to have a generation and destruction phase, right? Like where the token's created and burned, so there's always a, you know, like helium does, you know, try and keep it as balanced as possible. You could make it like, say it's not its own layer 1, but it doesn't need to be either. Fucking aggravated. Oh my god. But that's the thing is like, continue to call it a beta for a while. You know, I would think that that's a good idea to call it a beta for as long as it's required. You know, just to get a fair assessment of how many people actually want to use the thing, how often they use it, and then after a few months, reassess and say, well, based on the users, we think that like where the cost benefit analysis is, right? Like how much extra servers cost to like user retention, how often they use it, how frequent, or how many minutes a day basically. Because the idea is if you have 10 of these graphics cards, right, or servers or whatever they are, I don't know if they're individual cards or if they're servers or whatever, but if you have 10 of them, that should facilitate 20 instances. And the idea that it's not likely starting out that all 20 of these are going to be occupied at the same time, so it's not necessarily cost effective to purchase more graphics cards than are reasonably used at any individual or any given point in time, right? So finding out what that sweet spot is helpful. But if you find out that you've got lines of like hundreds of people, you're kind of like, okay, well, that's when you reassess and go, well, then sure, shit probably is worth trying to find more graphics cards or whatever. At which time you would say then well, the beta was a success, I guess. I don't know. I guess it's how that kind of thing works. I tell you, man, all it takes is a few noteworthy streamers, like talking about the thing, right? Having a segment on their stream with it, right? And it's not necessarily my position to talk about partnerships or anything, but you would think there could potentially be room for that kind of thing in the future if you find the right guy that has like a streamer's audience or whatever to try and at least a limited partnership or whatever to where they have a feature on their show or whatever once a week or once a month or whatever it is. And but then again, like you're assuming you have to pay somebody to do that kind of thing. There's a lot of people that just like showcasing interesting technology. Oh, this resist, dude. I got so much hit right now. Why the fuck am I getting resisted? Like, statistically, you should never get a resist almost. Oh no. These guys, we all fucking got into it earlier, didn't we? Look at these guys. But there's a sweet spot, right? That the most cost effective but most beneficial, like just determining what the time people are willing to wait to use the chat with Leah feature is, you know. Well, if it's 5 minutes, that's fine, but at 6 minutes, I'm out of here, you know. You want to try and keep it in that sweet spot where you have just enough servers for people to only have to wait just long enough, you know. That's all information you won't know until you try and get the thing up and running, right? They must have slowed the respawn rate because it. Hello. Sure, right. What is that? What does this do? Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Like this, there's not all this running up and down. Yeah, I don't know why, man. I don't know why these vision AIs and sight enabled, whatever you call them. Why isn't more of this stuff? Is it just because it's the data isn't prepared for training, right? Like, just think like, why not make that a passive process in some way, shape, or form? Like, there's got to be somewhere where it fits in. You know what I mean? Like, people are going to be using the thing anyway. There's got to be a way to use the information, right? Or the data generated, rather. Just like my main focus currently is where is that spot basically? Where do you turn this into a feature that's also helpful for both people, both parties, right? Hate that I got this super awesome farm spot. I don't necessarily want to be on WoW all night, but I should put on my fire resist set doing this, shouldn't I? A couple pieces of it might be helpful. Would take a lot less damage. The thing I'm trying to think though is like, do you want the AI experience to be like each person has their own AI, or do you want multiple people to use the same AI, right? And then there's like, I guess, I would hope maybe some sort of ownership. I don't really know how the overall thing, like all the wheels turning at the same time, what it'll look like, how it'll work. But the idea that at first there's only going to be so many AIs, and it's not necessarily fair to only allow one person to use the thing if they purchase the NFT, but there might be some redemption thing that can happen where if you are the person that purchases the AI first and you have the creator's NFT, then you get a percentage of anybody else that uses that same AI, right? The skin for it or whatever. That's one possibility, but that seems like that's gonna put fees and stuff in like a very few people's hands. Basically, you want it to be kind of all inclusive. You don't want it to be so, but if they are expensive, then you know what I mean. I'm just trying to think of what'll work best. What gets everybody involved. And at first, the ability to have hundreds of these things aren't going to exist. It'll start off with one, and then they'll make a big deal out of introducing another one, and then another one, right? Until you get to the point where everybody has their own. You'll have multiple people using other AIs. Or you can make it to where whatever person creates the skin for it or whatever gets a percentage of everybody that uses it, so it incentivizes the creator to make an AI that's more appealing, right? I say that just by design features alone, not necessarily like what large language model it has or anything else, but that's too many moving parts. But for like a creator incentive, right? So you have someone that actually knows how to do this. Their incentive for creating and developing on the platform might consist of residuals, right? So each person that uses their AI, they're entitled to a percentage of the tokens redeemed to use that AI potentially, right? As a sort of creator incentive or something. That way, if you get 100 people to use your AI, you get 3% off every time they purchase credits to use on the platform with their tokens. And the rest, that might be something that works, really. If you think I don't know what the monthly price point will consist of relative to tokens or dollars or stable coins or whatever, but you would think 3% or whatever, if you want to make it 5% so it divides evenly into 100 or whatever, would require 20 people to use your AI for you to basically get a free subscription every month or whatever, If you can get 1,000 people, like you actually make a decent amount. But these are all ideas so far, right? That's about it so far. But that's also something that could take years to get to that point, right? Which is it's fine though. At least it's a good idea to have at least a rough around the edges idea of what you want it to look like eventually. But you might see a future where eventually the ease of use will be the equivalent of Pump Fund. Not the same thing, but the ability to launch a token on Pump Fund, you might be able to launch an AI, you know what I mean, years down the road, but the launch part only, not the fucking all the other shit that goes along with it, but none of the other mechanics except for the ease of launch, basically, of that part of that, right? Shit. They're fucking. Smithers. Shit, guy. Really? Come on now. That Cone of Cold hits pretty hard now, though. That's neat. Something I'm not used to. I don't know if I ever spec improved Cone of Cold before, but I added the numbers up the other day, and it looks like you're pissing me off, right? Put two and two together, and that's one of my favorite lines ever from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Where? Why won't it? Ow. Seems like Yikes, man. The other spot might be better. All these dickheads here trying to farm my spot. Let's see how many people are here. Just 1, 2, 3. Step away for 1 second, dude. I think this spot might be better anyway. Where's I have my Ice Lance macro? Taking forever to respawn. Macros. I have an Ice Lance macro somewhere, and I don't know if it works or not. It's supposed to Ice Lance anything it's moused over, but it didn't work. Really? Oh, mouse over. Let's see. There. That's perfect. You still have to be pointed at the thing, though. Trying to test my macro. This guy's making it difficult. Shit. Why not just kill it? It's like it's one thing if it's quicker to not, you know what I mean? I can't believe my whole life I never had a mouse over ice mouse over ice lance macro. That's fucking super helpful. Right. Especially if you get into where like you know where it's gonna spawn, all you have to do is keep hitting your like that. Instead of having a tab target. Just point your mouse at where it's gonna be and spam your ice lance. Oh shit. I got stuck in a corner now. Shit, burrs, Jerry. Oh, great. Now there's hordes all over here. They're not gonna let either of us farm. Really? Fucking, where did all the, like, did I get ported to another layer? Like, all of the Alliance are gone. I have to call it quits for now. Come on now. Where did everybody go? We had this spot, and that fucking guy's son of a bitch, dude. All mages too. Well, let me guess. That guy's not gonna like me. Of course he would. Of course he's not. See how we can do this. Approved counter spell. Derp. Not much I can do there. Hunters hit hard, and I'm in PvE gear on top of it. I guess I don't have to be, though. Really? Fuck. Could have played that better. Do I have my PvP gear with me? I don't. Where'd he go? Flew somewhere? He's a big red hunter too. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. I don't have any cooldowns either. Excuse me. Not necessarily trying to get sauced by this hunter. I don't know if his shit's on cooldown or not. Give it a go. He's big red already again, isn't he? All I can do is sit in an ice block for a fucking day and a half. Where is he? Where's the guy at? Is he chasing me? I guess so. Where the fuck is he? He's got his pet on me. Nothing I can do about it. Any one of those guys want to help? For the love of God? Really just, well, I have enough now. I got 6. I might log off and do it tomorrow. Anyway, well, that's a good stopping point then. Let's log out here. Anyways,